Welcome to Chat Like a Native. Have you ever felt that frustrating moment when an English conversation just stalls? You
Yeah.
really want to connect, move beyond just "Hi, how are you?"
Yeah.
Finding those next steps feels kind of tricky.
Or maybe even a bit pushy, right? Like you're prying.
Exactly. Or like some kind of interrogation.
Well, for you, our listeners, we've really dug into this. We've looked at some powerful ways to turn those awkward pauses into, well, actual connections.
Okay.
So today we're doing a deep dive into something called bridge questions.
Bridge questions. Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. They're basically simple but really effective techniques. They help you gently guide your chats from, polite small talk to more engaging, meaningful exchanges.
So less surface, more substance,
Pretty much. You'll find out how to build rapport, maybe avoid some common mistakes, and just sound more authentically natural in English.
which is useful everywhere, right? Work, networking.
Absolutely. Making friends, chatting with colleagues. Get ready, because this could really transform your conversations.
All right, I'm ready. So bridge questions. You said it suggests moving between points.
hmm
What exactly is a bridge question? What makes it so important for, like, really connecting?
Okay, so at its heart, a bridge question is basically a follow-up, but it's a specific kind of follow-up.
How so?
Think of it less like asking a question and more like offering an invitation.
An invitation.
I like that. Yeah, it gently invites the other person to share just a little bit more, maybe about their experience or their feelings, their opinions, maybe even plans they have.
Mm-hmm.
It's like building a little bridge, Small, sturdy planks helping you cross comfortably from just being polite acquaintances to actually genuinely connecting, one friendly step at a time.
Okay, so it's not just about getting information.
No, not at all. You're asking for a little piece of their story, really.
That reframing, calling it an invitation, that definitely takes the pressure off. Could you maybe walk us through an example? Like, how does a conversation actually go from surface level to something deeper using these?
Sure, absolutely. Let's take a classic one. Someone asks you, "How was your weekend?"
Yeah, happens all the time.
Right. And most people just say, "Good, thanks," and stop there. That's pure surface.
Okay.
A bridge question would be something like, "What was the highlight for you?"
Ah, okay. More specific.
Exactly. It asks for a specific positive detail. That's usually much easier and nicer to share than just a vague, "It was good."
Right.
And then, maybe to go even a step deeper, you could follow up with, "Oh, cool. What made that part so special?"
I see. So you're layering the questions gently.
Precisely. With each little step, you're building trust. You're learning something real about the person, and you're moving beyond just the automatic surface level response.
Yeah.
That subtle layering, that's really key.
That really clarifies the progression. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more then.
Hmm.
We've asked that first bridge question. They've shared something. How do we keep it flowing naturally
Right.
without, just jumping to a completely different topic or
Yeah.
feeling like we've run out of things to ask? That happens easily.
Yeah, that's a great point. And this is where understanding effective communication really points us towards something we can call the four-step bridge sequence.
Steps. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a repeatable little mini sequence. It's designed to keep things flowing smoothly, and the nice thing is you can kind of cycle through it.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the steps?
All right, step one is mirror.
Mirror.
Yeah, you just simply repeat a keyword or maybe a short phrase the other person used. So if they say something like, "Oh, I'm starting a new project,"
You'd say.
you just echo back, maybe with a slightly questioning tone, a new project.
Okay. Just reflecting it back.
Exactly. It shows you're listening, and it kind of invites them to expand on it without you asking a direct question yet.
Got it. Step two.
Step two is probe. Now you ask a gentle follow-up question, usually using things like what, how, when, where, who, maybe why, but we'll come back to why.
Gentle questions like,
Like, "Oh, how did that start?" Or "What made you decide to choose that particular direction?" The key is keeping them open-ended and, well, gentle.
okay, mirror probe. What's next?
Third is reflect. This is where you show you understand, often by maybe gently labeling a feeling or just summarizing briefly what they said.
How would that sound?
So if they're talking about a challenge, you might say something like, "Wow, that sounds rewarding," or maybe, that must have been a bit stressful."
Acknowledging the feeling.
Yeah. Or if they just explain something complicated, you could summarize, "Okay, so let me see if I got this. The deadline moved up, and then you had to reorganize pretty much everything around that. Is that right?"
Right. Checking your understanding.
hmm
That makes sense. Mirror, probe, reflect. And the last one.
The final step is extend. This is where you invite them to take a next step or maybe share a small related story or insight.
So opening the door for more.
Exactly. You could ask something like, so what's your plan for this week to move that forward? Or maybe something like, if you had to give just one tip about managing that kind of situation, what would it be?
Ah, interesting. It encourages them to share more expertise or plans.
Yeah, without feeling like they're being put on the spot. It's an invitation again.
Mirror, probe, reflect, extend. Wow, okay, that
Absolutely.
provides such a clear structure.
Mm.
It really does seem like it could guide the conversation without putting all the pressure on you, the speaker, to constantly be thinking up brand new questions.
Exactly right.
It's like having a little roadmap for your chat.
Precisely. It creates a kind of rhythm, a natural back and forth. It feels much less like an interview and more like you're exploring something together.
Okay, understanding the theory and the steps is great. But for our listeners practicing their English, how does this actually, sound in a real conversation? Could you walk us through a quick example using that full sequence?
Yeah, definitely. Let's imagine a really common scenario. Maybe you're at work, you're talking to a new colleague, perhaps over coffee or just during a quick break.
Okay,
You might start with something general, open-ended, like, so how's your first week going?
standard opener.
Right. And they reply, busy but interesting.
Okay. Busy but interesting.
Yeah.
Classic.
Classic. Now, you immediately use step one. You mirror. Interesting. Just that one word with a curious tone.
Interesting, okay.
Then they might say, yeah, I'm spending quite a bit of time learning our new ticketing system.
Right, getting into specifics.
So now you probe. Okay. What's been the most helpful part of learning that so far?
Good probe question.
They might answer, definitely pairing with them all. She's been great, showing me all these little shortcuts.
Okay.
Now you reflect. Oh, nice. Yeah, having a good guide like that really takes the stress down when you're learning something new, doesn't it?
Yeah, acknowledging the feeling, connecting on that.
Exactly. And finally, you extend. So if you had to teach me just one of those shortcuts, the one that saves the absolute most time, which one would that be?
Ooh, I like that extent. It's practical too.
Right. And see how that whole sequence really effortlessly takes a simple, busy but interesting and turns it into a genuine, useful exchange. You even might get a practical tip out of it.
Yeah, I can absolutely see how that makes the conversation feel way more personal and helpful too. You're building a real connection there, not just, ticking the small talk box.
Mhm.
You're actually exploring their experience. This feels like a pretty big shift in how to approach conversations, especially when your goal is to chat like a native.
It really can be transformative, yeah. It takes that initial, sometimes slightly awkward small talk and builds it into, well, genuine understanding, maybe even just a shared moment.
Right.
And often it's those small shared moments that actually build the strongest relationships, whether they're professional or personal.
Okay, this is where I think it gets really interesting for our chats like a native listeners. Because it's not just what you say, right? It's also how you say it.
Absolutely crucial point.
So what are some of those like micro skills?
Yeah.
Things that can help us sound more natural, more confident, maybe less like we're reading off a checklist when we use these bridge questions in English.
Yeah, that's critical because what all the research and just experience shows is that the nonverbal stuff, the vocal delivery, it's just as important as the actual words.
Totally.
So first off, tone and pace, really important. Try going just slightly slower than maybe your normal pace in your native language.
Slower, really.
Yeah, not like painfully slow,
Yeah.
but deliberate, measured. It gives you thinking time, and it also signals thoughtfulness. And add tiny pauses after your questions.
Why after?
Well, it gives the other person a moment to think, sure, but it also signals that you're genuinely interested in their answer. You're not just rushing to fire off the next question.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
And use a rising tone for that friendly curiosity, especially when you're mirroring or probing gently. But maybe switch to a more neutral tone for topics that might be a bit more sensitive or serious.
Got it. Tone and pace. What else?
Second, use softeners and openers. Little phrases like, I'm curious, or would you be open to sharing, or even just if it's okay to ask.
Polite entry points.
Exactly. They're incredibly polite. They reduce any feeling of abruptness, and they show respect for the other person's boundaries. Essential stuff.
Definitely.
You can also frame before a deeper question. This is a good one. Say something like, I only ask because I'm trying to learn from your experience with that. Or maybe No worries at all if you'd rather not go into it, just thought I'd ask.
Giving them an easy out.
Precisely.
Hmm.
It manages expectations and creates a really safe space for them to decline if they're not comfortable. It's all about making them feel safe.
Right. Any other techniques?
Well, something that can work really well is disclosure matching.
Disclosure matching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it feels appropriate, maybe offer a small, relevant personal detail yourself before asking for one. Like, I sometimes feel overwhelmed by new systems too. What helps you sort of calm down and focus when that happens?
Ah, so you share first.
Yeah, it creates a sense of shared vulnerability, makes it feel more balanced.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's really all about making the other person feel comfortable, feel respected. That's subtle, but yeah, powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, flipping that coin, what are some common mistakes, like question traps we should really try to avoid? Because even if you mean well, it's easy to mess up, right?
Oh, absolutely. And an excellent follow-up. Avoiding the pitfalls is just as vital as knowing the good techniques.
Okay, what's a big one?
A really common one is double barrel questions.
Double barrel, like asking two things at once.
Exactly. Like, so where did you grow up and what was your childhood like there? It kind of forces the other person to choose which bit to answer or try to juggle both, and it just gets awkward.
Yeah, I can see that. So what do you do instead?
Just split them. Ask one, pause, let them answer, then ask the other. Where did you grow up? Pause.
Mm.
Ah, okay. What was it like growing up there? Much smoother.
Okay, split the barrels. Got it. What else?
Another big one is jumping to why too quickly.
Really? Why seems like a normal question.
It is. But sometimes, especially early on, why can accidentally sound like a challenge or an accusation, or even a bit dismissive, depending on the context and tone.
Okay. So instead of, why did you do that?
Try starting with what happened, or how did that come about, or what led to that decision. You can often get to the why later once you've built more trust and understanding. Save why for when it feels safer.
Okay. Delay the why. Good tip.
Yeah.
Any others?
Yeah, be really wary of advice traps.
Advice traps, like giving advice too soon.
Exactly. We often want to jump in and fix things for people, but a lot of the time people just want to be heard, They don't necessarily want your solution right away.
So empathy first.
Yes. Try empathy first. Something like, wow, that sounds really tough. What options are you kind of considering yourself? Let them explore their own ideas before you jump in with yours.
Right. Let them lead.
And finally, this one sounds basic, but it's huge. Put your phone away.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. But your eyes, your attention, they are such a fundamental part of asking a genuine question. If you're glancing at your phone, even for a second, you're signaling distraction.
Yeah.
And that immediately breaks whatever bridge you were trying to build. Showing genuine presence, being truly there, it's just non-negotiable for real connection.
Those are incredibly practical tips. Avoid double barrels, delay the why, resist the advice trap, and ditch the phone. Okay, so thinking bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
What does all this mean when we're talking with people from different backgrounds?
Mm.
Are there, like, cultural things we need to be super aware of when using bridge questions? Especially maybe in international teams or places where chat like a native could mean different things to different people.
Oh, absolutely. That's a vital layer. Understanding culture notes is so important.
Like what specifically?
Well, things we take for granted, maybe personal space, how much eye contact is comfortable, even which topics are considered private, like family, money, politics. These can vary hugely across cultures.
So how do you navigate that?
Yeah. Our best advice is usually stick to more neutral bridge topics first. Things like work processes, hobbies, food, maybe travel plans. Don't dive deep into sensitive personal stuff unless the other person clearly opens that door first.
Start safe.
Exactly. Also, the speed at which trust is built varies a lot. Some cultural groups tend to share quite openly and quickly. Others warm up much more slowly, valuing patience and maybe more indirect communication.
So you need to adjust your pace.
Definitely. And critically, use what we sometimes call safety questions.
Safety question.
Yeah, little check-ins like, are you comfortable talking about this? Or happy to switch topics if you prefer, should we? It gives control back to the other person, lets them steer away if they need to, and prevents you from accidentally making them uncomfortable.
That's really considerate. Anything else on culture?
Well, yeah, titles and hierarchy can be a big deal, especially in some workplace cultures. With more senior people, it's often smarter to start with questions about process or maybe asking for advice before you venture into feelings or more personal stories.
Show respect for the role first.
Right. Personal questions might seem less appropriate until you've established a solid professional rapport.
Okay, this brings up a really important point. Once we've asked these, well-crafted questions and navigated the cultural stuff,
Yeah.
how do we make sure we're really connecting? Building that actual rapport is not just about asking, is it? Is how we receive the answers too.
You have absolutely hit on the most crucial part of the whole thing. Questions are maybe only half the story. Active listening, that is the absolute bedrock for building real rapport.
Active listening. We hear that term a lot. What does it really mean in this context?
Well, it's not just passively hearing the words, right? It's about actively processing, understanding, and then responding in ways that make the other person feel truly heard and valued.
Okay, so how do we do that?
So building on what we said, first, keep echoing keywords occasionally, just simple things. If they say, the deadline got moved up unexpectedly, you might just echo, moved up unexpectedly.
Confirms you're following.
Exactly. Shows you're tracking their narrative. Second, try it as grass. Naming feelings gently. We touched on this with reflect, but it's key for listening to. Wow, that sounds frustrating, or okay, so that sounds pretty rewarding then. It validates their emotional experience. You don't have to fix it, just acknowledge it.
Just showing you get the feeling.
Right. Third, using short summaries is incredibly powerful. Okay, so let me check. I got this straight. New project scope, much tighter timeline, but you feel like you've already got a stronger plan in place now. Did I get that right?
So it clarifies your understanding to
It
them.
says. It shows you were genuinely listening, and it gives them a chance to correct you if you misunderstood anything. It's a check for both of you.
Okay, echo, name feelings, summarize, anything else.
And finally, something a bit more subtle. Try to gently match their energy.
Match their energy.
How? If their voice is really calm and measured, try to keep yours relatively calm too. If they're clearly enthusiastic and animated about something, you can allow yourself to reflect some of that energy back. Obviously, be authentic, but try to tune in. All these signals, taken together, the echoing, naming feelings, summarizing, matching energy, they create this profound sense of psychological safety.
Safety.
Yeah, and that feeling of safety is what really fosters openness. And it's that openness, that willingness to share authentically, that creates true depth and connection in any conversation.
Wow. Okay, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive, really transforming how we can think about our English conversations. Clear, it's definitely an art, but an art with some really practical techniques we can learn. So for you, our chat, like a native listener, thinking about putting this into action, what's maybe one practical step you could take, like today, to start using bridge questions?
Okay, great question. I really encourage you to try one of these super simple practice drills. You could just take any podcast or video you're listening to in English, pause it after someone says a sentence, and just try echoing one keyword out loud.
Just echoing a word.
Yeah, with that slightly rising, curious intonation, like the deadline or interesting project. It just trains your ear and your mouth for that basic mirror step, helps you start identifying those keywords to hook onto.
Okay, that sounds doable.
Or maybe grab a friend or a colleague, someone you feel comfortable practicing with. Start with a really simple surface question like, how was your lunch? Or how's your week been so far? And then challenge yourselves. Try to use maybe 3 different types of bridges within just 2 minutes.
Thinking a highlight question, then a process one, then a feeling one.
Exactly, something like that. Mix it up. The point isn't perfection, it's just deliberate practice, getting the feel for it.
That's an excellent challenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really is all about practice, isn't it? Like any skill.
Totally.
So as you dive into these techniques, remember what we talked about. Small talk might just unlock the door, but it's these bridge questions that really invite people to walk through with you to build that deeper understanding and connection.
Well said.
The depth of your relationships, honestly, whether they're personal or professional, it really can depend on your willingness and your skill in exploring just beyond that surface level. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into connecting like a native. And maybe here's something to think about as you go out and practice. How might mastering these bridge questions, not just in your own conversations, but maybe if more people use them, how might that subtly shift the entire dynamic of a team or even a community? Imagine a place where everyone felt just a little bit more heard, a little bit more understood. What could that change? Keep chatting like a native,